Okay, so this group have just done the line-up exercise. I wonder if they're all clustered in the same places or whether there's a kind of a spread of people around the room.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, one of the invitations is to look for somebody who's, furthest away from you, and ask yourself a few questions. Am I surprised? And what would it be like if they were actually exactly where I am, that we were all... And, to think of the difference between a team where everybody's positioned in exactly the same spot and a team that has a broader footprint. And I would invite people to think about whether actually the team that has a broader footprint is a bit more stable and a bit more able to adapt. That there are times when you need people who are very much using their intuitive, instinctive kind of skills. But there are times actually when you really need a team that can be held by people who've, got the evidence and the sort of kind of orthodoxy, if you like, the steps. There are times when you want a little bit of top-down leadership and clarity. But there are times where actually what the leaders are trying to do is to create a team that has a culture that does this rather than tell people to do it. So it seems to me that where I would worry is where a team is all piled into one spot. Where I would feel much more kind of optimistic is the team that can recognise that people are in different positions.
And I suppose then that gives an opportunity to hold people in balance a bit, hold each other in balance.
Yes.
Do you think there's a right answer to the two questions?
I really hope not. I really hope not, because it seems to me that there are a few things that are very critical here. One of the points is that this is where each individual in this team chose to stand themselves today. And I would expect, and in fact I'd be rather surprised if they stood in exactly the same place if they did it tomorrow or a week or 6 months from now. And that seems to me appropriate. Where I would be worried would be where a team had low levels of understanding of where each other stand in these things, and particularly where they had low levels of respect for the different skills and things that people bring in those different places.
So that question of does change come around by managerial say-so, or does it come up from sort of frontline practitioner culture? Is a helpful question to be thinking about in terms of going away and implementing some of these AMBIT principles and practices for this group. And I suppose it can be very tempting to get into thinking, well, it's absolutely no good if we don't have managerial support. It's, this isn't ever going to happen. And it is really, really important, I think, to have, someone with some authority to bring around changes. But actually, time after time, training teams in AMBIT, we have seen that bottom-up kind of practitioner enthusiasm can bring about change.
Yeah, and like most answers in life, it seems to me that the answer is both, both and, not either or. So just to sort of summarise, for us this exercise is absolutely about that element in the stance elements of the AMBIT wheel, the outside one, where we talk about the key worker being well connected to the team. That a team that is well connected is not all the same, but they know each other and they understand the positions that each other are taking, and they can celebrate the difference and use that. That the person who is working on intuition and kind of a gut feeling can do so knowing and confident that there's someone down the other end who is more closely sort of holding to where the evidence is, what the safety elements are, and that just as the person who's just doing things by the book would probably deliver something a little dead and dry.
Risk being in pretend mode, perhaps.
Yeah, they both need each other, and it's that well-connected team is the team that can really explore and kind of value those things.
Yeah.